Throughout the lifetime of the channel, I've put together a number of videos focusing on trying to identify the best budget watch options for specific dial colours. It's been a few months since I did the last one on orange, but as the most recent piece I featured on colour, orange dials have been hanging around in my mind ever since. One of my surprise favourite watches from last year was a ridiculously yellow ocean plastic quartz piece from Triwa. So when I saw Age UK, a charity based in the United Kingdom established to help the elderly, offering this sub-piece brand new for just over a third of the asking price, I just had to give it a go. It's a bit of a bargain, but is it good enough to earn itself a place in my permanent collection, or am I going to end up selling it onto pastures new via eBay? We'll find out in this episode of Keep or Sell, and with all that said, let's get into the video. Now, you might have guessed it from the coloration of the watch already, but the inspiration for the moniker given to this piece is a lot less Captain Nemo and a lot more Finding Nemo. The whole piece is a solid block of clownfish orange with a colour matching strap. It's definitely something you're going to notice on wrist, and I think in a similar vein to my yellow Triwa model, it's a really fun and happy beach watch, but with some added dive functionality. One element of the design I really love is the use of oppositional colour on the hour hand. That blue really pops. Apart from the Ghostbusters themed special edition models of this watch, all of the standard range features a yellow second hand regardless of the colour. I can see the financial and house style benefits of a design choice like this, but bright yellow on top of bright orange is not the easiest when it comes to legibility, though it does add to those summer vibes. It's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, and I certainly don't envisage many people being able to rock this in an office, but I have to say I'm a fan of the aesthetic. It puts a smile on my face when I put it on. There are, however, some elements of the design that I am not as fond of, and this wouldn't be much of a balanced review if I didn't also offer critique. One element is very personal to me. I am a very dedicated person when I get into a groove of focusing on something. I've mentioned before on the channel that I was getting myself tested for autism, and given how many videos I've made on a single hobby, I don't think you'd be surprised to find that the result was indeed a diagnosis. One piece of evidence towards this is that I have 4 degrees. I simply wasn't able to stop with education. In all my time studying, there was only one unit that I ever had to drop out of, and that was oceanography. There were simply too many complex prerequisite components from other disciplines required to understand what was going on for me to cope with. So seeing this lovely dial with its 3D ocean ridge mapping actually sends me straight back to that struggle. That is unbelievably specific and niche though, and in reality I do think having some texture to a dial at this price point is just a really lovely touch. Perhaps just not the best choice for me personally, but I'm sure I'll get over it. The design element that I think is probably more of an issue for far more people is the Time for Oceans print work around the edge of the dial. Yes, alongside the sub-name, it's a nod to the design inspiration of the watch. We are in homage territory here to some extent. But did we really have to copy the worst part? I just think it detracts from the overall product and draws attention away from the lovely dial and handset. The last design element that I'd flag up is the date window. It just looks a little squished next to the 3. Anyway, really these are small quibbles that I would be really unhappy about if this was something I'd spent a huge outlay on, but it isn't, so I'm going to take it for what it is, a bit of fun. It's hard to get yourself worked up about small design details when you're being blinded by orange anyway. Past the looks, let's discuss the specifications of the model. The sub, as the name suggests, is a dive watch. It's rated to 100 meters of water resistance with a unidirectional dive bezel that has a surprisingly satisfying action to it. Now 100 meters really isn't very impressive for a dive piece. I would think of this as something that is appropriate for snorkeling more so than serious dive experiences. It is very vibrant underwater though. It's worth mentioning that there are a wide range of other colourways available that are going to be less Marmite than a bright orange model. So if you like this watch but are not sure about the colour, Triwa has you covered. The sub comes in at 40mm in diameter which is fairly standard sizing for a men's dive piece. Even if you have a smaller wrist, if you were going to wear this over a wetsuit, the size isn't going to be an issue. The watch is powered by a Miyota 2015 quartz movement and made wherever possible component-wise from recycled ocean plastic. Triwa as a brand are focused on making products that highlight the issues of our day and age, watches that make a moral statement and convey a message. The ocean plastic is a part of that. I know there are companies out there that use plastic that's destined for the oceans rather than recovered from it. Triwa themselves use the term ocean-bound plastic, but I still see some good in that, even if it isn't quite as transparent as the name might suggest. At least they are open about it. Other models that they make are produced from steel sourced without the use of fossil fuels, and watches made from melting down confiscated illegal weapons. Now, I don't claim to be remotely morally pious, and I don't think the choice for what you wear on your wrist has to be a social, moral, environmental, or indeed cultural statement. What I do appreciate though is that the choice is out there, through Triwa and brands like them, to make that statement if you want to. Especially when the watches are so affordably priced during sale periods, I think these make for a great summer beach watch if you go for the more colourful options. If that coincides with doing a little good for the world, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I have to say, outside of the aesthetic choices I flagged up earlier, which you'll either hate, love or tolerate depending on your tastes, one of the only actual areas of concern with this model for me is the strap. My initial impressions were very strong. Essentially, it is the same strap as my Ocean Plastic Sun model. It's heavy duty, thick with chunky Zulu loops and a stainless steel buckle. It's also made from ocean plastic, with strands weaved together and colour matched to the case. However, after less than a day of wear, the curved end of the strap had started to fray and has gotten a little worse over time. Not great when on the Triwa site itself, the strap costs almost as much as I paid for the entire watch. However, I suspect this might just be an issue with my particular strap. As I say, with my Ocean Plastic Sun, I've not had the same issue. The only other thing to flag up is something that I noticed on the Triwa website that I can't say I've seen anywhere else. For almost every product they list, there is a lengthy condensation warning describing how it can occur in certain conditions and how to remedy the issue. It ends by outlining that having condensation under the crystal is not automatically a sign of a manufacturing defect. Now, I've been swimming with both my Plastic Sun and Sub Nemo, and accidentally taken the Nemo from a sauna, salt room and steam bath directly into a cold plunge. I totally forgot I had it on, and I still had no issues whatsoever. I can only assume that some complaints have been made for a warning like this to be featured, but it's not something I've personally experienced. One big plus for the model, and this is a shared experience with my time with the Plastic Sun, these are not your average plastic quartz watches. Not only do they have a feel of solid build quality to them, a heft you simply don't get from a budget item, but they're pretty durable too. I've treated both of the models pretty badly if I'm honest. I'm clumsy, I've dropped them, I've taken them into places that I shouldn't, and neither is really the worse for wear as a result. Despite my minor issue with the strap, this is certainly a brand who makes things of a standard that's well beyond a plastic quartz watch you might pick up in a department store, that's for sure. As far as the question we are aiming to answer in this video goes, do I keep the watch or sell it? For the first time since the start of the series, I'm going to have to delay a decision beyond the video itself. I don't think it's fair to make a judgment call on a watch that's clearly aimed towards summertime at the beach without actually having the opportunity to take it to a beach. I really like Triwa as a brand, but I think for me, I don't necessarily see the value in having both this and the Ocean Plastic Sun, so perhaps you can help me in that regard. Which of the two watches do you prefer? Would you keep the Nemo or sell it in my position? Do you dislike both of the pieces? Or is there a better, bright, cheap, durable watch for summer days at the beach? Let's discuss in the comments section below. As ever, thank you for your time. If you've enjoyed what you've seen or found it informative, consider dropping the video a like and subscribing for more content like this in future.